My name is Muhammad Irfan bin ZUHAIRI. I will explain about North Korean political. Okay, the strategy of North Korea, officially the Democratic People's Republic of Korea or the DPRK, take place within the context of the official state ideology, Juche, a term developed by Hwang Jang-yok and later attributed to Kim Sung. The Juche theory is the idea that true socialism can only be accomplished by self-reliance and a strong independent state. Basically, the North Korean political structure is based on the concept of centralization. Although the North Korean constitution officially guarantees the security of human rights, in practice, there are significant limitations on freedom of speech and the government is closely monitoring the lives of North Korean citizens. For much of its history, North Korean politics has been dominated by an adversarial relationship with South Korea. North Korea allied itself with the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China during the Cold War. The North Korean government has invested heavily in its military, aiming to build capacity to reunite Korea by force if necessary, and to repel any attack by South Korea or the United States. According to the doctrine of Juche, North Korea was committed to a high degree of economic independence and to the mobilization of all the nation's resources to protect Korean sovereignty against foreign power.
The year of 1980s, North Korea is known as a country that practiced a unique political system known as Syrian system. The Syrian system has been established by the first supreme leader of North Korea, Kim Il-sung, and it has been carried on by his successor, which is Kim Jong-il and Kim Jong-un. And nowadays, the system is referred as a system whose purpose is to eternize the guidance of the leader through hereditary succession. The primary feature of the system is mainly based on the Juche ideology. The internal purpose of Syria is to eternize its rule through a more comprehensive and exhaustive regimentation of people. In Juche ideology, the fundamental principle of human being demands on an unquestionable obedience to the guidance of the Syrians as the supreme leader of the society. In order to do this, the party was assigned the function and position known by the people as the belt that conveys the guidance of the leader to the people. Lastly, the Juche ideology plays the roles of a religious doctrine by implementing a theory of socio-political organism. The actual function of a ruling party in socialist countries can be categorized into four categories. The first category is research, planning, and formulation of political line and policies. Second category is training and selection of future candidates for leadership. The third category is instruction and supervision of state organs, and the final category is indoctrination and ideological education and the mobilization of people based on ideology. The ruling party in such a country also perform an additional function called symbolic function. It established the legitimacy of the system by delivering some sort of message to the people and international community. Differently in North Korea, the symbolic function of the party was not mainly a necessary requirement for the system. The reason is because the decision of the Syrian were assumed by the people to be the correct decision, and the people were expected to obey and follow the decision that has been made. However, it does not mean the party did not possess the function of the reinforce the legitimacy of the system. The function of the party were carried by a few organizations. Firstly, function under the party central committee are a series of departments such as organization and guidance department and information department, which are led by the respective secretaries. Secondly are the party organizational, which were established within the state agencies and many social organizations that are under the supervision of the party. In conclusion, Syrian system has been the fundamental political system of the North Korea.
Here I will share to my part about Songun in North Korea. North Korea has set a first military policy known as Songun. Songun or first military policy was a policy made by Kim Jong-il in 1960 with his father Kim Il-sung when he went to Pyongyang on 25 August and on this date is a national holiday named as Songun Day. However, it was introduced in 1962. Songun has made the Korean People's Army an important position in the North Korean government. After Kim Il-sung passed away in 1994, Songun policy became the main political system to replace the Soryung system and was introduced as a political system to replace the Soryung system and was introduced as a revolutionary idea to focus on the military and as a politics that emphasized unity and solidarity. Politics has become an integral part of the progress and formation of an international nation, which is not the case through the political system. A country can establish diplomatic relations with foreign country in order to ensure the future of the country. Politics is a system that must exist in a country in order to achieve the desired goals. Besides, another thing about North Korea is when during Pyongyang motivation to acquire nuclear bomb capabilities. This motivation is normally for nation peace, as the agreements reached involve the great nation together, and steps to get nuclear should be clear. The talk involved 6 parties comprised the United States, North Korea, China, South Korea, Japan and Russia. The talk was held in August 2003. The talk were also held because they wanted to give new momentum to the denuclearization agenda, respond to the criticism of the three-party talk between the United States, North Korea, China and China took place in early April. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, my name is ELLY RAZALI. I will present about the diplomatic relations in North Korea. From 1948 to the 1950s, it has a limited diplomatic relationship. The ROK also recognized by United Nations and several Western states after declaring independence in 1948. And by the 1950s through the 1960s, it also has a non-aligned diplomacy. After Korean War, North Korea moved toward closer relationship with the Soviet Union. In 1960s, as newly independent nations joined the United Nations, the DPRK also expanded its diplomatic relations. In 1970s, it also expanded the diplomatic outreach. And by the 1975, Pyongyang was admitted to the non-aligned movement and North Korea's diplomatic momentum lagged. 1980s, it has a faltering outreach. In the 1980s, North Korea linked to the terrorist act abroad, and its economic weakness and the collapse of Eastern Bloc contribute to these issues. And by the 1990s, it has a growing isolation and new outreach. The Soviet and the Chinese recognition of the ROK in 1990 and 1992 was a major diplomatic blow to the North Korea, and the collapse of the Soviet bloc also resulted in major cuts in aid to the DPRK. By the 2000 also, the European Union and the six-party talks, the DPRK established the diplomatic ties with the many European countries in the early 2000, and the agreed framework between the United States and North Korea also broke down in the late 2002. And top of it also, Botswana terminated the diplomatic and consular relations with the DPRK in February 2014.
Based on my understanding, Kim Jong-un, who is known as a North Korean dictator that people all over the world, is such a tyrant who has no mercy on others. Punishing someone for that is a joke to him. No one can raise their voice against Kim Jong-un. Everyone might have heard a few stories of Kim Jong-un, which is famous for his treachery, and that's why he's called the most centric dictator in the world. Here are some effect that I have listed, which is obviously not a good result for his own country. On North Korean citizens, violations of human rights in North Korea. When we hear of human rights, we generally think about civil and political freedoms, such as freedom of expression and freedom of political participation, but human rights refer to the freedom to live as the common owner of one society. There is no human right more fundamental than the right to freedom. Above all else, human beings must be assured the basic conditions to eat, clothe, and house and support themselves in order to survive. The most fundamental human right will therefore be the right to make use of the above conditions for basic survival, since only the dictator has human rights. But to the great leader in an advanced world, the president has to answer the Congress for the sex scandal. But different in North Korea, no one can challenge the action of the great leader of the abuse of human rights by his agent, which is Kim Jong-un. Refer to the North Korean political. In North Korea, completely controlled by the single philosophy of the great leader, which is Kim Jong-un, since it is dictatorship. The exercise of the right to freedom of expression is inconceivable. Also, casual social interactions such as class meetings or gathering of people from the same hometown is forbidden, making freedom of association and assembly entirely meaningless. Laws allow for freedom of religious belief, but it goes without saying that any faith that is contrary to the philosophy of the great leader cannot exist in North Korea. All of the churches in Pyongyang are fake. Are fake church designed for a display. Of course, the monks staying in the Buddhist temples are false monks. Genuine belief in North Korea cannot confess their faith. Only false believers are permitted to do so. Residents can't switch from one country to another country, travel pass, without a travel pass. But this has recently become irrelevant as a result of the food crisis. Thanks to the food crisis. Is change possible in the near future? Yes, as many people believe, but perhaps not as long as Kim Jong-un is still in control. Just like it might take about 20 years for a new generation to demand reform. We have to wait a little for the next generation of leaders to arrive. The mind of a leader must also shift in order for any real progress to be made, and Kim Jong-un will be set in his way. It may be Kim Jong-un's successors will bring reform to the world, or maybe the person after that, but the one thing is certain, one day dictatorship will be over in North Korea.
Okay, to summarize it, the political scene in North Korea is quite interesting to study. Starting from the early days of the Republic, it used the Suryong system as the main political system to administer the country. When Kim Jong took over the country after his father's death, he changed the Suryong system to Songun system, emphasis more on military aspect. The political system of North Korea also affect its foreign relation with other countries, from taking part in the Cold War when they joined alliance with Soviet Union into starting to develop diplomatic relationship with a few European countries in early 2000. The administration style of North Korea also gives a significant effect to its people. Thank you.